Hello and welcome to We Had Movies, and I'm your host, Mohammed Yagi
And Eric.
and Eric. And today we're going to be talking about Robin Hood Men in Tights. Get straight to the point. So the reason why is just because I don't know, it's just seems like a film that suits the certain like environment at this time. Things are kind of getting sort of better weather wise and less snow. I don't know. I don't know how else to say it, but it just seems like a spring movie, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, r- keep in mind we're talking about Robin Hood Men in Tights that came out in 1993 and not the film Robin Hood that it parodied, the Robin Hood Prince of Thieves
Like
that
the
came out
thieves,
in
yeah.
1991. So we won't be talking too much about Kevin Costner and um, uh, what's his name with the voice, Morgan Freeman.
Morgan
So
Freeman.
yeah, so we won't be talking too much about them, but just so there's an idea, that's what the film was kind of parodying that version of the Robin Hood movie. So yeah, we're talking about a parody. We're talking about something that, we decided to watch this movie again because I guess we both have a clear memory of it as far as Mel Brooks films. Especially because this one came out in the 90s. Actually, I'm looking at the DVD right now as I talk about it. That's funny. Because it's just one of those ones that sat in my collection. I don't know. It just always felt close to my heart. It was something that I could rewatch. And then I didn't really reflect on it till we recently rewatched it that like the certain people that had played a role in this film.
Hmm.
So like Carrie Ellis being the actor, main actor, and Carrie Ellis is just amazing. And kind of I would say underrated because he's done far and few between acting career jobs, but I'd say he's a pretty decent actor. And then there's Dave Chappelle that shows up at one point
This is actually his
as
film debut. Yeah. As a
as
shoot.
okay, so it's his first time being in the
It's his film
movies.
debut, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Achu, and I mean he did an excellent job being in the background again, not getting too many lines, but being a pretty useful character all in all. Because the as far as the story goes with Robin Hood, and this is just kind of just backtracking, just because the story, I mean, we could go through and that like we normally do and kind of summarize the film, but in this case, I mean, this is a Robin Hood story that's been told a few times in history. I mean, it always gets told a little bit different.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, but it's always Robin
There's just
Hood
a bit of
gets
what
is in the
yeah, there's
Crusades,
always
gets
there's always a
captured.
and then he comes
Yeah,
back home,
and
right?
then he
That's
comes back
that's
home. Yeah.
basically he comes back home to where to the land that his family is supposed to have or have reign over, and
Right.
things are not what they think, right? Like they've either been taken over by Sheriff Nottingham, or in this case, Rottingham.
Exactly.
And he's got to get his merry band of thieves, his merry band of thieves, together and save the day, right? Like it's the exact same formula that they had in the Costner version. It's the same that they had in the Disney version with the animals.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
it's literally the same thing. It's about, like you said, it's a
Yeah, the Disney
variations on a
version I
theme,
think is also
if you
based
will.
on like a more like an older black and white
On the book
version.
version, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. That's
Yeah,
still one of my
there's
favorites, by the way.
yeah, of course. Yeah, cuz I mean and it's again, it's the story that as it goes is like it's Robin Hood. He gets captured in the Crusades, gets rescued, he gets freed, he makes a
And that's
friend, and the friend has always got to be a Moorish person. So at the time, if
absolutely,
you're
well,
thinking
that's
about the
part of the story,
time
right?
period,
That
so
that that
they
yeah.
decided to make him black and and the Prince of Thieves. So that's where Mel Brooks came up with the idea of Chu, except instead of having the father who was played by what's his name, Shaft, right? Wasn't that who it was? That
Yeah, I think
actor?
so. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I forget his name now. But yeah, so he's so you have that, that father, that's the gentleman who helps him escape, but I
Mhm.
guess they changed it around and gave it a younger look. So they just had Achu. So it's like, yeah, once you get to England, you'll meet my son, and yeah, so they changed it up a little bit, but the idea is still the same. It's like he has a Moorish friend, which is always a part of the story. Traditionally, they usually made him look more Arabic, and less. I don't know. In the Disney version, they just kind of cut out that character altogether. I don't think. I think they were just worried about how that would look. I guess I'm not sure, but
Right, right,
but um, but in general, in the story, there's usually that one guy that helps him escape, and then he kind of tags along. He becomes like, Robin Hood's best friend. Basically, it's like this guy who's like always on his side. It's almost like the Spock to a Captain Kirk, know. And then you have he meets a bunch of other guys along the way. Of course, he has to, like, because he becomes impoverished because of the Crusades, he basically now has to find a way to fight amongst the thieves, basically the people who are also impoverished, to build an army. So he has to somehow strengthen these people so that he can strengthen his position and then be able to take back what was rightfully
right.
his before the Crusades had taken it from him. And that's generally the story. And that's why, and then it's always, this idea of him stealing from the rich and then giving to the poor. But really, the idea was he was trying to get his land back.
Hmm.
And at the same time, that would benefit all the people that were under him, who were peasants, who now are basically impoverished and have nothing, and now nobody backing them. So yeah, so it's kind of like an interesting tale. I mean, the real world, Robin Hood would be around the time of the Crusades, and they made King Richard seem like this very important, and very nice. He's a very proper king, but you got to think about the time when the Crusades were around. They probably all were just warmongers. And to be honest, they were all looking for more profit, more gold. And if you think about the Catholic Church at the time, was taking all the land of all the barons and dukes that would go off to war and then die. So
Hmm.
really, it was a really profitable time for a specific group of people, and not specifically kings. But yeah, it was kind of like the end of the age of the kings, I would say, um, very much so. Um, but yeah, there was yeah, so the story itself, it just goes on about the same routine, but it introduces the characters in a funny way. So you have, like, Little John is kind of a moron. Um, Scarlet, what's his name? Will Scarlet is kind of like, I don't know. They kind of like made it so that he's related to, like, an actor or something like that, in some way. Um, and yeah, they have some other things they tie back to the older film versions, like the '70s versions of Robin Hood, with like them dressed all in tights, green tights, and like those brown leather straps or whatever they wear on top. And
Yeah.
then yeah, so that's kind of all the weird traditional stuff that they kind of put in the film, but you kind of still understand it. You watch this movie and you're like, yeah, I understand that this is a Robin Hood movie, and it doesn't phase you at all, the way that they're dressed. Other than the fact that they have a song about them being the men in tights, and of course being in the title of the film. But yeah, so Mel Brooks, of course, talking about him. I mean, could you say a little bit on him, as a director, or do you have anything on him?
Well, there's I mean, classic Mel Brooks. There, when he first called Gary to offer him the lead role, Harry thought it was a prank, so he hung up.
Okay. Okay. So that makes
Uh,
sense. I mean, yeah, it seems like he would have been too old at that time. I mean, if you think a little bit about the history of Mel Brooks too, like Mel Brooks has been around since, I mean, forever.
'70s, like at Blazing Saddles. That was in the
But
mid
I
'70s,
mean,
I think.
yeah, and even before that, and he was a writer. He was a comedy writer for TV shows back in the 50s and 60s.
Oh, okay.
So like he's been doing comedy writing for quite a while, and that's why it shows and reflects in his films because he not just brings what he brings to the movies is interesting because these movies come out not just um like a film, but it also comes out like a Broadway musical on film almost because he also likes to write songs. He writes music and
Hmm.
stuff as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. It's almost like he's bringing like a classic traditional way of doing theater arts and putting it on film and making it really work really well. And it's of course it's got that parody and the comedy styling, which is really classic too of doing a Broadway musical. You know, you got to do a
Yeah.
little bit of parodying, you got to do a little bit of yeah. So it's got a lot of that too. So it just seems like he was always on Broadway, even if he wasn't. You know. So that's the thing, and if you think back to even further back, Mel Brooks was also in the Second World War. Sorry, First World War would be crazy. He was in the Second World War as well as a combat engineer for the last couple of years of that war when the U.S. had joined. So yeah, I mean he's got quite the history from going from that to from the military to finding his way back into writing somehow. I mean, he got lucky, and his mom found him a job and a career after the war to go into clerking or something. And then from there, he just decided he wanted to do comedy writing because he would go out at night and do like sketch stand up comedy. But there was also,
Yeah.
I think there was a part of it where he was doing music as well, drumming as well, because he learned that from somebody as well when he was younger. And there's a lot more to just the point is there's a lot more to Mel Brooks than just what meets the eye. So he's had quite a life,
Hmm.
and quite a lot. Some films honestly have failed for him. Like there's some films that people don't even talk about, and you wouldn't even recognize if I had told you. Like the one film that he wrote that basically wasn't like any of the other films who had no Broadway musical, nothing. It was just basically a rich man who made a bet that he could live in Los Angeles and in the ghettos of Los Angeles without a penny on him, and he could survive for 30 days or something like that. And it was just
Oh,
not a
okay.
really well done. It wasn't a really well done, one well received film. But and I think yeah, it's just called Life Stinks, by the way. So that was the name
Okay.
of that film. Yeah, so if that's another interesting one to watch, just to have an idea. But again, it's not like anything else Mel Brooks has done, so you're probably just not going to like it.
Hmm.
Yeah, like the really successful ones everybody knows are like Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, um, like those ones were really
Spaceballs.
Spaceballs. Yeah, those are like the major ones that stick out. And then there's like some like the history of the world kind of was kind
It's
of
That's a
relevant.
classic one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then he's been said to be moving to doing the history of the world part two, which is interesting. But
That'll be
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. But speaking of this film, I mean, going back to Robin Hood Men in Tights, the film does justice to a lot of the story, like I said, of the original. It also brings out a lot of comical versions of things that you would like. It's like something you would have had a memory of in the story, but just in a funny
Hmm.
way, right? Like this, like the fact that he goes back to the castle and it's getting moved, like they're taking his home. Can't pay for the rent anymore, so or whatever, can't pay for the land. So they're just taking everything, and then you have Blinken, who is like this, you know, his blinded servant,
Yep.
and you know, just little general things. Blinken also being kind of a pervert, in the storyline. They made him that way. Kind of an idiot in a sense too. So
There were
unfortunately,
there were I found there
yeah.
were just so many references to the um Prince of Thieves movie in such a tongue-in-cheek kind of way, almost like
Hmm.
poking fun at it. One of the big ones I noticed was in when he actually says, when Carrie says, unlike other Robin Hoods, I can actually speak with an English accent,
Right.
which is like a complete like finger point at Kevin Costner, who had no
For not
English
doing an
accent
accent.
in
Yeah.
exactly. Now, interestingly enough, what I found out about that part is that this particular scene doesn't exactly work with uh, being translated into other countries, right?
Hmm.
So depending on the version that it was, they changed up the dialogue for it.
Okay.
Um, yeah. So for the German version, the gag was changed to say, because I, unlike some other Robin Hoods, do not cost the producers 5 million. And the German word for cost is Kosten. So it was pronounced in a way that made it sound like Costner.
Costner.
Uh,
Okay.
in the French version and Italian version, it was dubbed and it was translated because, unlike other Robin Hoods, I do not dance with the wolves, which is again a big like reference to Kevin Costner, right? So
I
it
think that was the
kind of
intention
goes
of
on
the
like
joke.
that
Yeah.
for sure. In the Quebec version, in the get this, in the Quebec version, he says, because unlike all the Robin Hoods, I accept to wear tights. Because again, it was again a reference to Kevin Costner not quite playing the role as people kind of expected the role to be played.
Right.
Now, again, they this is just the differences that you see in movies where they take it's the exact same movie, but they take creative liberties, right? Like,
Hmm.
they've done the Robin Hood movie half a dozen times, and I'm sure they're going to keep doing it because it's a story that over the different time periods has resonated with people, right? One way or another. Like, there's you can always kind of get behind the story of the guy stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, right? Like, that's kind of been a
Exactly.
timeless story over the years. Even in modern gangster movies, you see a bit of that trope where he steals from the richer or the wealthier people and then gives back to his uh his community, which is less well off, right? His low income community. So that whole Robin Hood trope has been played even in non Robin Hood movies, for decades, right? So it's interesting
Yeah.
that they still keep making the movie, even though that trope has been around for like Lord knows how long.
Right. And it's been around in, yeah, so many different versions of it now too. And I think
Exactly, and they
we
just
see it
modify it each time, right? Just
right.
a
And we
little
see it
bit. That's and
repeated
that's all you
like,
have to do.
yeah, even like now it's more you'd see it something on like a CSI or something like that, but it's always like
Exactly,
there's always a
exactly.
version of it. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's been become a common trend. I mean, that we could say that also about the one film we were talking about before, when we were talking about the one that was like the Prince and the Pauper, class act. So it's just like
Oh, for
again,
sure.
taking something that is just like a story that has been told over and over again, but you forget what the original was almost because yeah,
Exactly.
it's just different versions
They
of it.
just they look at the basic concept behind some of these stories that have been told already, and they find a way to retell them with new updated details. Which, I mean,
Hmm.
as long as the story is solid, I'm all for that.
Hmm.
Like, I'm um there's a lot of remakes being made nowadays, which I find are a little bit unnecessary. Um, I mean,
Yeah,
there's
and it's
there's
almost like
excess of movies.
I'm
There's an
actually
excess
enjoy
of movies that are superhero movies, for example, right now. I feel like
right.
there's a kind of fatigue associated with the superhero movies at this point, and I think maybe it's time to revisit some of these old concepts and old movies that we made years ago, and just maybe remake them for a new generation. Change some details,
Hmm.
reimagine them, right? because I think some of those stories are worthwhile and they can be retold in very, very creative ways.
Yeah, because like, well, the way that it's being done now, because the way that people are now with the loss of attention span or watching a full length or full feature film, they break it down into like episodes and make shows out of it. So that's like the idea of the history of the world
Absolutely.
part two, which is going to be coming out as a show instead of coming out as a full length feature film.
Hmm.
And again, it's just this concept of like, well, you know, it's just a different time. So things that we enjoyed, and especially the way we enjoyed it, and especially the way we enjoyed film and comedy films in particular, are just being experienced differently now. Right? People like to break it
Right.
down, take their time, watch it in pieces. It's just different. But at the same time, like I would love to see like a return to Robin Hood Men in Tights. No. I don't think it needs to be a sequel to it. There's always a joke with Mel Brooks and making sequels to all these, though. I mean, it's been an ongoing joke since like Spaceballs, and I think they ended up doing like an animated version of Spaceballs or something like that. But the idea of really bringing back a classic film like this, which it's funny because it stands alone as a classic, even though it's making fun of other classic films. Um,
Hmm.
it's got its own. It's this one to me sticks out. Like Robin Hood Men in Tights sticks out as a film that just like will always be in my memory. Certain scenes will always stick out, like the scene where he cuts the horse, and he makes the sheriff like upside down on the horse, or whatever, that cuts the seat there. And then he's like, you're worried about I wouldn't worry about being pissed off. I'd be worried about being pissed on. That's the Dave Chappelle joke there. Because he's just on the bottom side of the horse. And then he rides off and he's bumping his head along the way. So that whole to me, that's always going to be stuck in my head. That whole thing where the sheriff, when he meets the sheriff and he cuts him down and he knocks him over. They even have like they don't make Robin Hood perfect in any way. He's still a
Nope.
comical part of
Exactly.
the story as well. Like where there's a scene where he's supposed to like trap them with the right rope, and then he hits the wrong rope and then it just drops on him instead. Or it's like there's all these little things where it's just like little faux pas, a little like incidences where it's just like he's not a perfect hero, but he's the hero that's gonna save the day. So yeah, I kind of enjoy this movie. It's kind of funny. It doesn't.
It's there's some moments that definitely stand the test of time, and
Yeah,
that for me is one of the big things that I look at movies like this for is do they hold up?
yeah,
And there's definitely elements that do hold up. Uh, I'm
they're
looking at
comforting. They're comforting. Yeah,
yeah, for example, I'm looking at specifically some of the Dave Chappelle moments. Like there's one moment where he's getting beaten and he says, I hope someone's taking video of this, which is a direct reference to the Rodney King beating.
right.
There's a lot of topical and cultural references that I think for somebody that didn't grow up in that era, they might be like, what the fuck? I mean,
Hmm.
if they know about history, they may be aware of it. But I think it doesn't hit as much as somebody who grew up in that time period and where like we lived through that. We lived through the news reports of
Yeah,
that beating, right? Like we lived the aftermath of what happened in Los Angeles after that not guilty verdict of those guys. The LA riots that were a direct response to
right,
that.
right.
Like for a lot of people that lived in that era, it's a very visceral response that we get to references, things like that. For a Gen Zer or a Zillennial, that might not mean a whole lot, but for
Hmm.
us that, we lived it does because it kind of takes us back to that point in time and we're like, oh shit, yeah, that happened.
Well, I mean, like just like Blazing Saddles gets got a lot of awards for being like a classically, like something that really does experience the Western culture, even though it's like again, it's just a parody and it's to make
Hmm. Hmm.
fun. It still gets a lot of acclamation for being like accurate on the historical part. And I think the same thing happens with this Robin Hood movie too. Is just gives you the sense of how that past is still connected to our present because he's playing a role of Robin Hood in the 90s,
Absolutely.
but Robin Hood in the 90s living in the past, you know, and so you have those things. But what was interesting too is like you were talking about Dave Chappelle's joke and Ronnie King, but there was also the reference to Malcolm X, and that was because of the
For
movie.
sure.
Remember
The Plymouth
that it
Rock.
would
Yeah,
have come out
exactly.
before as well, where he puts on the glasses. So there,
For sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is funny because we had just done that movie as well. We had just talked
We
about
just did it
that.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So just in general, this movie didn't just parody. I mean, although Robin Hood was the biggest theme, it was also making fun of a lot of what we knew as culture at that time, and I think that's why it
Yeah.
also sticks out.
It
That's
made
why
a
it stands
it
the
made a
test of
lot of
time.
fun of Prince of Thieves, you know.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
it made a lot of fun of Prince of Thieves, but it also brought up a lot of things that were well. It also kind of did a little bit of parody of The Godfather. There was the with the
yep.
um what's his name, Don, I was gonna say Don Cheadle.
It was Dom DeLuise.
Dom DeLuise comes in and he's doing the Santa Bonacera. You come to me, I come to you on the day of the daughter's. It's got like
The day of my daughter's wedding.
the day of my daughter's wedding. Yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of that funny reference as well. And I mean, again, The Godfather is kind of a dated reference at that point, but it
Oh,
still
for sure.
worked. It still worked, and people would understand it. And it was still a big movie, even
And it's
at that
interesting you say
stage
that
in
because I
time.
think that that very much applies to a lot of
Hmm.
movies where the movie itself as it's no longer culturally relevant, but the because of its effect on culture, like it very much seems relevant, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, there's definitely a lot of moments in this movie that kind of just remind you of what I mean, of a different time. I mean, I remember seeing this movie when I was a kid in high school
Yeah,
in so like it very much reminds you of that time, right? Of
yeah,
growing up and watching
absolutely.
this movie.
Yeah, there's a little bit of nostalgic feeling as well about watching this film. Um, Also other references to things that would happen at that time. The Patriot arrow, just like it's supposed to be like a Patriot missile.
Yep,
Um,
yep.
he shoots like the multiple arrows at once because he's better than Robin Hood, who can shoot two arrows at once from Robin Hood, Prince and Thieves. Um, and then like things like I don't know, just he's better at swordplay. But then he can't jump on his horse, so then he gets that reference to white man can't jump, and then that's a reference to that film. Man, white man can't jump, and
Right?
then yeah, there's just a little bit of of enough of little satire, a little bit of pokes at other little things that you would also have to
Hmm.
know. It's just in the know because you would have also seen these other films, these other things that would have affected your knowledge of.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So it definitely had something different about it. Um, comparison comparing to I don't know because like Blazing Saddles, I feel it was less trying to parody a specific film, and uh,
Where yeah, whereas this one was like a direct parody. Some
yeah,
of the Brooks movies are direct parodies. If you look at
yeah.
Spaceballs, I mean, that's a direct parody of Star Wars, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, you but Blazing Saddles very much seemed like, it's kind of its own thing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's its own story, you know. It's
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But the jokes are still there. The reminder that There's like levels of even when you're talking about the monarchy and their levels of peasantry and the levels of
Mhm.
like those things are still applied within the film, just again still mocking how different we lived our lives compared to how we live them now, and almost like giving you an idea of like, you know, don't take it so hard, you probably have it easy compared to what these people are
Yeah,
looking at. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, like the guys who are blowing bubbles in his bathtub, like that's their only job, as if that was a job. But I mean, that's the idea, is like there could be a job like that
Well, I mean,
because
I think it just kind of speaks to the absurdity of what certain people
yeah,
did in that
tasks.
time period, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you had some guy that would, I don't know, wipe your ass or whatever,
Yeah, literally. Yeah, exactly. Instead of just doing it yourself. Yeah. Yeah.
right? You got some guy to do that for you. No, but yeah, it very much is one of those things of product of the times, right?
Yep. So all in all, I could summarize this film as like entertaining. Like I said, Carrie Ellis's like presence is really like, yeah,
Classic,
really
in my opinion.
classic. Yeah, he's just, yeah, he just carries the film, and he's just so good. And even
It's
if you
like
were,
for me, it's
yeah,
on a level of like it's on a Princess Bride's level.
yeah,
Um, like his just kind of influence when it comes to that.
yeah.
Um, it's just timeless, right? Something that you'll always just bring
you're
something to that
you're you're
role.
always rooting for him. You're rooting for the character, and you want him to finally get his princess in the end, and like, you know, Maid Marian. And inevitably they have to get that what do you call it? What was it called? The belt that she was wearing, or
Oh,
the
the chastity belt.
chastity belt. Yeah. So the
That was
chastity
hilarious.
belt had to eventually get taken off. But even then, they get to the end of the movie, and it turns out the key that he had didn't actually fit that, and it's not the treasure of all the land. So instead they end up having to call a locksmith because they have to get that Everlast. I like how it's an Everlast reference as well. Yeah, because Everlast boxers or whatever. But yeah, like just the idea that she's wearing a chastity belt the whole time, and that she has to get this removed, and that's a part of the storyline, and that's the real goal at the end
It
goal of
was,
Robin Hood.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
the constant gag that they had going on for it.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's like he wins the day, but then he still has to overcome this other obstacle, which is the chastity belt. Yeah.
The ultimate task.
The ultimate task. Da, da, da. Will Robin Hood make it? Will they find a locksmith? Next time on anyway. Yeah, so good movie. I would watch it again. Probably um nothing. I wouldn't say that it itself is one of the best of Mel Brooks's films, but it's a film that was in the 90s, and for me spoke a lot, and gave me the attention to watch Mel Brooks films. So it's like if I hadn't watched that, then I wouldn't know what Mel Brooks films are now. So I'm glad that it
Hmm.
did come out. I'm glad that it led me to watching other more interesting films. And yeah, so hopefully Mel Brooks does something else amazing before he goes. I mean, he is now in his late 90s. Um, so that
Jesus.
might, yeah, that might not be the case anytime soon, but you never know.
Yeah,
I mean, they
yeah.
say they say he's working on stuff, so yeah, we'll see.
I mean,
Anyway,
definitely it would be uh, a good way to top off an incredible career in filmmaking. That's for sure.
mm-hmm.
Um, because again, that one is a kind of like a classic in its own right. It's Was that the first movie that he did?
Which one?
Um, History.
The History of the World?
Hmm.
No, though he's done films before that. I think Blazing Saddles was before that, even.
Was it?
I think so. I think you'd have to look back and really because I think Blazing Saddles even came out before Young Frankenstein did. But I have to like I'd have to look back at the history of it. But yeah, yeah,
Okay. Either way, classic movie. Would not be opposed to a part two.
yeah. I think Blazing Saddles was the first big movie that he ever like big the movie that received the most attention.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I know that one was really big at the time because people were very hesitant
Hmm.
because of the racial content. I know it made a lot of people nervous at the time,
Hmm.
but good on Mel Brooks to kind of like stick to it, like it was a calculated risk on his part, but I think it worked out really well in the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah, I mean, it was something I think, like I said before, he was he was in the military as a combat engineer. Probably saw a lot of dead bodies, even though you're building bridges. So he spent a lot of time apparently singing his time when he worked because that's the way he liked to go over go through what was happening is sing his way through or just
Mhm.
enjoy life for the fullest, right? So I think that's what he brings to these films and that's what he brings to us and that's the concept that you get from these Mel Brooks films and it's just about looking at the joyous parts of all the events. So
Absolutely. Yeah,
instead
for
of looking
sure.
at the negative, he just likes to cheer you up, right? Yeah, he lost his house, but in a funny way, yeah,
Yeah, still tries to see the bright side of things, in spite
yeah,
of everything that might have happened.
yeah. You still have your two legs. You still got your voice. You still got your, you can still carry a tune. Like go, do something else. Yeah, yeah. But it's a good way. It's a good way of looking at it. But yeah. So if anybody else has an opinion about Bella Brooks's films, please let us know. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys this week. So enjoy.
All right.
Give me that in the city cheer. Jump around in my whip, itty bitty, looking pretty chill. Put my shades on, you ain't even seen it yet. Man, I'm so fresh, and you know I'm always spelling cheer. Give me what you want, what you got, cause I never get enough. You ask me how I want it, and you say you want a chance on me. Chances are you don't know how to do this shit respectfully. I say it like it rough, cause I need a man protecting me. I ain't say this shit for later. I said, baby, come and get it. Feels taking over if you let him. I'ma take the paper, I'ma roll it up and later he might do what he wanted cause I let him. Give me something that I'm never gonna forget. Because baby, I'm the only one you gotta impress. I won't take any more and I won't take any less. I'm the queen in this, you know I got the finesse. Give me that, give me that, give me that. Give me that feeling. Bring it back, bring it back, bring it back. Like when we were young. Like when we were young. Like when we were young. Bring it back, yeah, just bring it back. Sitting in the back, yeah, I'm rolling up some Trinidad. Feeling like the bestest, always got the best shits. Come on, round, baby, yeah, you knowin' who the best is. And that's just for the record, so y'all don't get it twisted. I ain't talking cheese, even though I'm buzzing, listen. You don't wanna miss it when you get the feeling. It'll make you feel explicit like a new addiction, baby, it'll take a hold. I know you're feeling cold, cause I've been feeling cool. You give me all these feelings that I used to have in school. These butterflies got me feeling light, like I'm floating through the air, hanging out like a satellite. Yeah, it's really got me feeling right. All around me, yeah, looking like a ceiling light. Hanging out with a hella glow. See me from the center of the earth with no telescope.